Bonsoir, interwebs.
And welcome to Closeup. I'm your host, Joe.
I'm Justin.
I guess that's how we're starting. So today we're going to be talking about The Sandman Season 2 for all two of you who watched it and care. Because...
1, 2.
Oh.
So nobody watched it?
Just except us. So we're just doing this for us. Because nobody cares about Sandman because they released it way too long after the iron went cold and Neil Gaiman was exposed as a not great dude. So yeah, here we are. The Sandman is just releasing dead in the water right now, and we enjoyed it though. Let's get into our medium shot. What was your hype level for Sandman Season 2?
Like next to nothing. Even though I listened to the audiobooks, I read the comics. I was looking forward to it like 3 years ago.
When the hype was fresh.
And then I was like, oh, they're actually making the second season. Oh, and it's the last season. Oh, well.
On the one hand, I'm glad that it at least got an ending, which we will be discussing in full spoilers, by the way. Just everything about this is full spoilers, once again, for the two people who care, who are probably in this room. But, yeah, my problem was the exact same. It was not a property of which I was familiar going in. You already had read the books in advance, correct?
Yeah.
Of the first season. So I was just judging it based on its merits as a TV show. And I quite enjoyed the first season as something I had no expectations for going in. And then 3 years went by and I see the banner on Netflix, new season of The Sandman. Oh, I guess that's still happening.
That was a show I watched.
That was a show I watched and kind of liked at the time. Let's check it out again. And I love this season. And I'm very disappointed that it didn't come out 2 years ago when it should have. I don't understand what takes 3 years for 12 episodes to come out when we used to get 24 episodes of TV per year. Mind you, of a less high budget per episode, but, you know, we got a whole episode talking about that, which I believe has released. It's probably a couple back now, why franchises cancel things, or cancel IPs or something like that. I don't remember what I called it. But, yeah, let's get into our close-up on Sandman and actually discuss this thing for what it is. So, there's a bit of back and forth, I want to say controversy about the fact that they chose to end the show here, because as you're probably aware, if you're a fan of the Sandman property, Neil Gaiman is not in public favor right now, and the cancellation of the show came out around the same time as Neil Gaiman's public canceling. So a lot of people were like, okay, well, him being an executive producer on the show, there's probably some correlation here. No? We're trying to bury the work that he did and bury the show that he's being a part of in large part. And then there's the other side of the story where they say, oh, well, canonically in the comic books, which I didn't read, Dream's story ends around here anyway. So it was always the plan, quote unquote, which I don't know if it's an actual quote, so don't quote me on that. But it was always the plan to end it where Dream's story ended, which would get us to about 2 seasons and not continue to adapt the rest because it has a lot less to do with him. So we're just cutting our losses early. And it took 3 years to get to this point, and there was no guarantee Netflix would want to renew it beyond season 3, so the creators effectively claimed to be cutting their losses early and giving it as close to an ending as they could with the second season they were guaranteed. I'm not sure where the truth lies. I don't know if they were trying to bury this show and say, oh no, that was the plan all along, or if they actually meant to, and real world circumstances about how long it took to come out and the issues with the author and his involvement just sort of killed the mood by the time it came out. I don't know.
The spinoff did terribly. The first season did okay.
Yeah, that was Dead Boy Detectives, correct?
Yeah, it did terribly. Even though it was actually pretty good.
Which you watched, and I think you even talked about it on Close-Up, but I never watched that. I didn't even know there was a spinoff.
Yeah.
That's how little they market this show.
Well, there was zero marketing for season 2 of,
yeah,
nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Which is sad, because this is a quality artistic product.
It's really good.
Now, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and get it out of the way. How was it for you as an adaptation? Because people always have thoughts on things as adaptations.
As far as I remember, it's pretty faithful, but I don't know, I have a very vague memory of it. It's somewhere in the right direction. I don't know, I didn't have any specific problems with it, per se.
They didn't ruin the big themes or character moments or whatever that...
No, I think they pulled it all off, basically.
Yeah. Just in a nutshell, my opinion is a long list of exceptional talents in front of and behind the camera exceed their own benchmark from the Sandman Season 1. It took everything I liked about the show a couple of years ago and doubled down on the stuff I enjoyed. It's... The thing I enjoyed Season 1 quite a lot, but Season 2 focused more on the Endless and other non-mortal beings, whereas Season 1 focused a lot more on Earth and the more grounded parts of the reality, and the way the immortal beings and the Endless interact with humanity. But Season 2 was just a lot more interesting and philosophical about how do the Endless end and their politics, their political sniping amongst each other, their manipulations and rules, and chiefly their toxic family dynamic, which they're all trying to sort out before Dream ends up dying, while he goes on his apology tour to make up for all the wrongs he's done in his life from his supposed true love, Nada, who he ended up getting sentenced to hell because she didn't love him, to his son Orpheus, who he refused to help because it wasn't in the rules, and then he ended up a literally disembodied head stuck on an island and waiting for death, and he got to help him as well, or to his family, who he's always been cagey with at best. Even at his funeral, nobody really knew him, and they flat out admitted he's kind of avoided us most of his life. And he's trying to make amends with his little sister, for example, who clearly wants to spend a lot of time with him, and she's kind of weird and a little annoying to him, and he doesn't really want her company at the start because, I'm too busy with my work, don't bother me. But then he hurts her feelings and ends up feeling really bad of, okay, well, I haven't really been a good brother. You want to foster this family connection, and I've kind of ignored my family for my work. So the whole season is just him actually getting some character development, which they do make a point of in the very end of, wow, the Endless getting character development? That's weird.
I think actually the show made me kind of catch something that I didn't really catch any of the other times I've gone through this story, is that Destruction is very clear that Dream, you've changed a lot. And he's
Yeah.
going on this apology tour, and everybody's talking about how he's changed. He's different. And then he literally has a rebirth, essentially.
He goes from Dream the Black to Dream the White.
Are you sure it's not the other way around?
It does work both ways, yes. Yeah, he turns into Daniel, who's sort of, I don't really know exactly how that works, but also I'm fine with a bit of mystery into it. So from what I gather based on this show, every version of the Endless there wasn't the first version, because Misery has a bit at the funeral where she describes how basically every version of them will be replaced and forgotten eventually, but she still is probably the last one to remember her predecessor.
Oh, Despair, yeah.
Despair, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that at the very end there, I'm like, oh, is that the rules? So the Endless aren't the Endless in these forms. They go through cycles of death and rebirth. And this is, I guess, just the first funeral of this generation. And that also made me think, okay, so when they call each other older and younger siblings, I'm like, okay, so does that mean the idea of dreaming was created before delirium, or this version of dream just existed before this version of delirium? I'm like, okay, so there's weird rules in there that is starting to make me unpack right at the end of the show. I'm like, you're dropping all these lore bombs right at the end and making me unpack this. But it's all interesting. So yeah, he goes through his rebirth, and he has all the knowledge of how to run the dreaming, but he's a better version of Dream because he's half human. He's got a more grounded connection to the people he's trying to serve, having been one of them, even just in baby form for a couple years. But he has a birth mother who actually loves him, unlike Dream's parents, who were very cold and dismissive of him.
Mm-hmm.
Which were some great scenes when he actually went to visit his parents there. And the implication is that Daniel's version of Dream will be a more open Dream who can find a better work-life balance. I enjoyed the very end when he got to meet his siblings for the first time, and it might be the first time in the show when they're all just having dinner and having enjoyable banter together. There was no animosity, and everybody was just happy to see each other for the first time. And it seems like they're going into a new era for the family, is where the show is leaving us. Which was a nice ending there. But I also kind of like that Dream only gets some limited redemption before he passes on. He doesn't, and even he in his own mind is a very stubborn person, and he knows that he will probably never change that fundamentally in whatever time he has left. But he does plant the seeds enough for his successor to be better than him.
Mm-hmm.
He spends his last days trying to make amends for his greatest failures over the last couple thousand years, and changes on the inside, but he can't bring himself to change on the outside. And that's what Tom Sturridge does so well as Dream, is he says a lot through his facial acting and his body language. He's very stoic the entire time. He delivers his lines very dryly and matter-of-factly, but you can also tell when things are emotionally affecting him, or just what bothers him and what he wants to say but is holding back. He's very expressive, despite Morpheus being a very, on paper, he's kind of a dry character.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got all this depth to him that still comes from beneath the surface in his portrayal, even if he's very cold and calculating and scary, like Delirium says. He dresses in black, he's pale, he keeps to himself, he never smiles, he hates everybody's company, he actively holds his friends and family at arm's length, never gets vulnerable with anybody. Lucien's probably the most he ever, and maybe Hob sometimes, but like very few people see him as vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And when he is, it actually scares people. Like, ooh, what are you doing?
Yeah, no, he did an excellent job just portraying a character that is very hard to portray, basically.
Yeah, because you have to believe that this guy he possesses the wisdom of thousands of years worth of experience. He's this endless being who has outlived generations of humanity, will, barring the events of this show, outlive generations more. He's seen so much and experienced so much that what can possibly affect him. And he's got this job like, oh, we're here to serve the humans, and I'm the guy who provides the realm where they dream. Okay, so on a certain level, I more than anybody else understand how humans think, but also he doesn't understand anybody at all. All he really knows is his job. Like, one of the first arcs of this season is when he frees Nada because he says, oh, she's my greatest love. And basically everyone around him is like, you don't understand what love actually is. And he's like, what? I do. I definitely, don't I? Don't I, Lucien? I understand, right?
Yeah, probably not.
And she never said that to his face, but she never gave him a straight answer either. He point blank asked her that, and she dodged the question.
That's why I really appreciate the subtlety of this show. Like, they're not in your face with everything.
Yeah.
The acting tells more sometimes than the dialogue does.
Which is a rarity in modern entertainment, where everything I see seems to feel the need to spell out how people are feeling and not just let the visuals and the acting and the blocking and the camera work and basically the visual storytelling tell you what you need to know. You get it.
That way of, like, modern stuff has been where it spells out the emotions. That to me is like what they do for children's media. And that's why I always say, like, oh, modern media is like treats us like children. This show doesn't treat the audience like children. It treats the audience like adults that can understand complex issues. And it doesn't 100% matter if you understand it all the way.
Yeah.
You understand some of the depth behind it. And that'll resonate with some people more than others in different things.
Well, it's a very mature show. I mean, you're not going to show this to people expecting, oh man, gods versus men, extravaganza, action, big blowout. Like, you don't really... Most of it is philosophical debates and conversations about existential dread and the nature of living and what to do with a life and making amends for your mistakes and trying to just be the best person you can be when gods and men are interacting.
I mean, really, the premise of the two arcs sounds pretty boring. He hosts a dinner party and he goes on a road trip with his sister. Like, you can boil it down to that. And they find a way to keep you invested in it.
The last arc sounds the most exciting on paper of, oh, okay, he just murdered his son and broke all the rules, and now the gods are going to take their vengeance on him because he broke the rules. And okay, that one sounds exciting on paper.
Yeah, I guess there was 3 arcs in this season.
Yeah, but it only lands as much as it does because we got the quote-unquote boring sounding arcs before that, which set up why he did what he did in the first place. If you don't get Dream to the point where he's okay with killing his son, then the last one doesn't really have the impact. It's the consequence of what he did. And even the fact that, once again, going to see destruction in the first place. That's breaking him out of his mold of, well, destruction. He left his job and he's, I miss him, but I'm going to pretend I'm just mad at him because he quit his job. So the fact that he's even going after his brother, who he's been estranged from for hundreds of years at this point, that's like, okay, well, maybe you're starting to see the value in family a little bit more than just the work that you do. And I also like how his brother mentioned, oh, maybe you're finally in the place to understand what I was trying to tell you hundreds of years ago about why I quit. And you were very unreceptive at the time, but I think now you kind of get it. But this Dream is never going to be the kind of person who would quit his job, but I think he understands a bit more by the time he actually died.
Mm-hmm.
Although I did like that some things don't change, like Destruction made the same sort of offer to Daniel of, you don't have to take on this responsibility, which is clearly very much stressing you out already. It's fine. You can just leave. And Daniel said, no, I'm good. I can handle it. But at the same time, he's more empathetic as a person. He understands.
Yeah, I thought they did Destruction really, really well. Like,
he's as charismatic as they build him up to be.
Yeah. And I found, like, in the original source material, he doesn't come across as... They kind of changed his character a little bit, I think. He comes across a little bit cold. Not as bad as Dream, but
yeah,
he doesn't come across quite the same. Where he's cold in this, but at the same time, extremely charismatic. He manages both.
He's cold in terms of... He's a very stoic individual, but in terms of his family, he's the warmest one.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one everybody loved. Even the ones who were the most rough around the edges, they loved Destruction. He was everybody's favorite sibling. And you really feel... When you finally meet him, you're like, oh, this is why. Because he's the only one who everyone felt comfortable talking to.
Well, and that's the thing is
except maybe Death.
His personality is at odds with his actual responsibility, which is what makes him the way he is, basically.
That's a cool point. My entire purpose is to sow destruction. And I'm tired of that.
And you'd think it would be something like, like you'd think Death would be worse. It's like, oh, your job is to die. Well, no, her perspective on it is, I'm assisting people transitioning, essentially.
I'm here to comfort them in the transitional moment, as you said.
And it's interesting seeing how like, I think that's a really important core theme is how everyone, how each of the Endless responds to their own responsibilities.
Yep.
And they did, they very briefly touched on it with Despair, right?
Yeah.
Where I really like that part where Despair actually goes to visit Dream because he's in despair,
he's
right?
Sad, yeah. That was
and that's the first time that Dream kind of is like, oh, I see why this is why you even exist. I understand what your purpose is now.
Yeah.
And that I liked how they did that.
Yeah, it is. It's very cool to see all of them in their functions. But when we're talking about how people react to what they do, I also like that Delirium's also sort of afraid of, like, she's very fearful of a lot of things. And you don't really understand why, per se, but I like that one-off line. And I know more about us than we do, than the rest of you do. And there's a reason I went from Delight to Delirium. And I'm like, you have this weird backstory that you're not revealing. And you always seem very... like, you always seem like you're on the verge of an anxiety attack.
Mm-hmm. And I think, like, combining the idea that it's like, okay, they're not all the first iterations. As far as I understand, she is the iteration that turned Delight of the Endless into Delirium of the Endless.
Yeah.
So having such a core element of the universe be sort of corrupted is like her whole thing, which they didn't really get into it. I was kind of disappointed that they didn't cover it because as far as I remember, it was covered more in this arc, and I believe it's covered a lot more.
I see.
But they kind of glossed over it with like the one line.
I find it very interesting that between the three of them, it kind of explains why the world is so messed up in a way. Destruction left his duties, and Destruction, like the realm of Destruction, is just chaos now with no oversight. The very force of Delight in the universe got changed into Delirium. So it's like Destruction is running rampant, and it's hard to even be happy because everyone's just confused. And then Dream was gone for 100 years. So, like, despite his realm still existing, the dreaming was just messed up. Like, wasn't it like nobody was dreaming for 100 years or something? I don't remember how season 1 started. And how he messed things up.
Well, I know there were people that couldn't make the transition back from dreams.
They fell into the comas, yeah.
But I think the dreams were, I think you're right. I think the dreams were just like nothing.
Yeah, there was something.
Because everything was falling apart, basically.
Yeah. So, like, humanity's inspiration was getting killed, Destruction's running rampant, and it's hard to be delighted when you're constantly confused. So, like, between the three of them and the way their jobs went over the last couple hundred years, it's like, oh, wow, that's interesting to see. Like, even where, like, Hobbes' concerned, we're like, okay, so there's up to a couple hundred years ago, there's a sense of stability, and then things just start snowballing after that for the human race. Just because of the way the Endless are doing their jobs or not doing their jobs. I also really like the moment when Delirium was talking about, also in the same vein of how the Endless work, when she said, if I walk on a street corner and notice a lightning bolt in the sky, people are going to go up to that spot and look up without knowing why. The stuff we do sends ripples through the universe after we're gone, and we don't know how that's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very interesting idea. They cause people to do things just by existing unintentionally.
And I guess even going to the first arc, like the same concept applies is Lucifer walks away from
you're right.
Role,
no,
right?
that set up his thing with Destruction because he was sort of disgusted at Lucifer for, wow, you have one job and you're giving it up to spin off onto a TV show. And which I didn't realize that was connected to basically what Lucifer does in the Lucifer TV show. I didn't realize that till you told me that that's supposed to be
it's
like a similar version.
Connected to the same source material, but not universe-wise between the two shows.
Yeah.
They're not officially connected, but
like, I know it's not set within the universe of this version of the Sandman, but the Sandman and Lucifer are both DC Comics properties that kind of intermingle with each other. So the reason,
well, they are connected properties in, like, they are completely connected
in the source material.
It just happens to be that
yeah,
show A was adapted before and show B was adapted later, and they're not a connected universe, but at the same time the story's still accurate. That's where she is going. That is what her story as written is, essentially.
Yeah.
So despite, minor differences, you can kind of take a guess, like, that's at least somewhat guiding for
where Lucifer's
what
going
you would
next.
see, basically, if all of a sudden in this universe they decided to make a Lucifer spin-off show. Probably be pretty similar.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really like the banquet episode where he's got to figure out who the hell to give hell to. And I like in the end he settles on God because he sees the angels and he's like, oh, the only way I feel my conscience being alleviated and what makes the most sense is give hell back to its creator. Like, oh, yeah, that's one of those endings where when you see it, you're like, yeah, no, that makes the most sense the way, like, just in one line, the way you explain it. And it's not like every other person was a good fit. What were you going to do with all these people who were threatening you and giving you ultimatums? And I thought the one that most intrigued me out of all the people was Odin's thing, where Odin was, oh, well, to fend off Asgard, to fend off Ragnarok, I need more territories. I need to keep my ongoing battle for a while longer. And then they basically just said, okay, well, you realize you're not stopping anything. You're just prolonging it and dragging it into a totally different realm.
It's just expanding the territory.
Yeah, it's just expanding the territory. And even Odin was like, he kind of mumbled about it. But they were right, and he respected Dream for his decision. And I like how Odin showed up later, and I never realized, like, not knowing anything, I didn't know Loki was going to be so important later on. Loki and his relationship with Puck, that was a good dynamic. I'm like, yeah. When I saw them together for the first time, I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense, and I never saw that coming. That's cool. Also the same kind of thing with the second Corinthian and Joanna Constantine. I'm like, okay, I like your dynamic together.
Yeah, I can't remember if the Corinthian ever got anything that useful to do again in the stories. He was just kind of around, and that's what I really liked that was a change from the source material.
I see.
But I liked that they brought him back because he was done so well. Like, he's a very popular character in his arc that he was in, and then, you know, he was adapted so well in the first season that it was great to see him come back again, and it kind of fit for everything. It was good. I really liked that.
It's another example of, I tried to do this one way and I messed up, so before I die, I'm getting the Corinthian right a second time. Just all going on Dream's redemption tour. And I thought his death was handled pretty well as well. He just kind of accepted his fate in the end. He was kind of back and forth on how much he was going to fight it, but I think he always knew what was going to happen. He was just, okay, but how can this happen without destroying my realm or too many more of the people I cared about?
Yeah, and that's why when it comes to All Out, like, everything being destroyed, he's like, okay, never mind. I'm out. See you later.
Yeah.
You're killing my people, so I get it. My time's up.
And I like seeing everybody's loyalty to that as well. Like, Nula's so offended she was sent back to the Fae. And then just disregards orders and comes back anyway. But he's like, okay, I was trying to protect you, though. I was like, they were going to destroy everything. I also thought it was an interesting monologue when Daniel tries to bring Fiddler's Green back, and he's like, okay, well, I died already. You're diminishing my life by trying to bring it back. The fact that I could die gave my life meaning. So
no, that was really good too.
Yeah. Gives Daniel his first lesson of, you have all this power, but you shouldn't exercise it. Not all the time, anyway. Like he brought Merv back and that stuck. But he had to like regrow a pumpkin and like I don't know. So like the theme kind of got a little bit muddled just because he left Merv alive, but like he wasn't gonna take Merv's life away again.
And he brought back Was it Cain who died or Abel? One of them died.
I think it was Abel.
I think it was Abel, and he brought Abel back as well.
Yeah, he brought Abel back. He brought Merv back, and then he learned his lesson about bringing people back.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it's kind of weird because it does get a little bit muddled thematically there, just because they did bring other people back, and also they stayed back, but also the fact that he brought them back endeared him to the other people as the new Dream of the Endless. It was because he did that they're like, oh, well, maybe he's a good new master.
Well, I feel like it was a little bit different with the other two because he was specifically requested by Cain to bring Abel back.
Yeah.
And Merv was just an instinct. He created him the same way Dream created him, essentially.
True.
But then Fiddler's Green was completely, oh, this guy, I know this guy. Let's just bring him back. But yeah, there is a bit of a cross there where it's like, are you messing with what you're trying to sell here? But
a little bit, but it didn't bother me too much.
I think the main thing was that it was the reason why you couldn't just bring Dream back.
Yeah. Death needs to matter.
Mm-hmm.
Which I respected. At being the end of the show especially, I'm like, oh, you're not just going to bring Dream back. Not knowing anything about the source material, once again, I see that, and I'm like, oh, Dream stayed dead.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. He got his replacement. Daniel's the new Dream of the Endless, and all right. We're on our way to new things. But speaking of just the life and death aspect as well, I quite like the standalone final episode of this season, which past the season finale, it's just a special one-off episode about a day in the life of death, or one day off, rather. It was I thought that was a pretty heartwarming story of she's just inadvertently distracting this guy on the day he decides he's going to take sleeping pills and never wake up. He happens to meet Death of all people. And he's like, wow, Death is interesting character. I guess I'll see where this goes. She just kind of convinces him to keep going to different places and live his life, and life goes on. He meets new people. He kind of reaffirms the things he likes about life and gives him new hope, or at least enough hope to get till tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the way I interpreted that story is that, like, the reason he's still alive is because it happened to be her holiday, basically.
Yeah.
And so she spends that time to kind of fix that.
Yeah. Which I think is interesting because that's not even her goal, per se. Like,
no.
She does clock what he's doing very early, but she's also just like, I just want the human experience. And you seem interesting. So let's just spend the day with you. And I didn't really know what was happening with them, per se, but I thought it was an interesting ending when Death died. I'm like, oh, is that how that works? Because I was trying to figure out the logistics of it throughout. I'm like, okay, so if Death takes a holiday, does that just mean nobody dies in a day? That's what I was trying to figure out at first, but then I'm like, oh, so it's just a corporeal form and other Death is still, like, who kind of gives the information back to regular Death about what that day was like as immortal, but other Death is still working?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's how they get around that. Because part of me thought the reason that the main guy didn't die that day, I'm like, oh, well, if Death takes a holiday, can anybody die? And there was a couple instances that kept me thinking that, where, like, the guy whipped a gun on them and, like, cracked his head after he slipped on the marbles or whatever, and he didn't die, or, like, the bullet when he shot, like, ricocheted and hit people or whatever. I'm like, up to that point, there were a few situations where some people probably should have died and made it out, and I'm like, okay, so is that just the universe, like, nobody dies today? which wasn't what it was, but they made me think that's what it was for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It kept me guessing about the logistics. It wasn't one of those things where I'm like, okay, I need to know for this to make sense, but it was just sort of a fun little under the radar subplot that's okay, well, we're kind of throwing things in here for you to question that. But that's pretty cool. What else? What about the visual effects on this show?
They're like, when it comes to like the CGI stuff, it's pretty good.
I think it's quite well done on the whole. It's very stylized CG, especially all the stuff in the Dreaming. I really like everything in the Dreaming, and most of it, what they're trying to do, like Merv looks good and Matthew is very convincing. Like when they're creating characters and situations or like brightening up the scene, like in the Fae or whatever, there's a lot, like on the whole, I think the effects are very well done. Where I get a little bit, is like in the backgrounds. A lot of it felt very green screeny to me. Like, but when things are foregrounded or you're trying to see magic in action or characters on screen, that's all good. But just your general backdrops, I'm like, all right.
I think where the visual style really excels is like the camera work, the way the shots are done, the way they line things up, the way they present things.
Nice framings for sure.
Framing for sure, yeah. And
it's like a comic panel.
The depth, I don't know how else to describe it. The depth of the shots is very interesting because it depends on where they are. The Dreaming is very
wide,
like very deep. And then, and the colors look amazing.
I thought the color palette was a little drab, but that's...
Well, it depends where
no, you're right.
You are, right?
That was the note I had written down, and that's all I just said, something like the Fae, which was very colorful.
Right.
But a lot of the places had that, and this isn't just a criticism, this is like a general Netflix criticism. I feel like a lot of Netflix originals sort of have this muted look, like The Witcher's got a look like that as well, and I'm like, I don't know what it is about Netflix fantasy shows that they mute the color palettes, like, oh, it's like grounded and serious, like it's 2010 or something, but...
I thought, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I think they always have a very good look to them, like for the color palette. Like I thought The Witcher looks pretty good.
I think like the darks come out really nice, more on the Sandman. I don't know, I like a little more color and things. It's a personal preference thing, but it's just something I see, and it's just not aesthetically super my thing.
Well, I can't be the fair judge because I'm missing most of the color anyways, so
it's, once again, I think it's a very when it comes to color palettes, it's a subjective thing anyway. It's just, it wasn't a wrong choice. I just felt, okay, I could have gone for like a boost in saturation here and there.
I guess what I'm usually looking at is the contrast and the usage of greens and blue. I find The Witcher's very... The greens and the blues are very sharp in The Witcher, and the contrast is really well done.
Yeah.
Like, Netflix has a very, to me, consistent look over a lot of its properties. Yep. Which they all use it well. But I wouldn't say that the color is distinct from each one.
Yeah.
Like even we're watching Wednesday right now, and it's the same color palette. They use a very, very high contrast.
Well, maybe that's what I'm getting at is the color palette. When you're talking about Wednesday, and you see what I mean. You watch a show and like, that's a Netflix show.
Yeah.
You can tell just by looking at it because they use very similar palettes across it. And maybe that's just me having a problem with the fact that Sandman can be compared to something like Wednesday and The Witcher is like just by virtue of it being a Netflix product. It doesn't feel like as standalone as I'd like it to, because I've seen this palette used in other things on this platform.
Mm-hmm.
It's not badly done. It's just, okay, I've seen that and I wish it was a little bit different, I guess. That's a part of it, for sure. Just skipping back to the dialogue, one criticism I had of it was that a lot of the scenes sometimes come across as monologue-y. Like the actual words they're saying, well delivered, well written. But if I have to have a gripe about anything dialogue-wise, a lot of the characters just sort of vent sometimes. Which, okay, I mean, they're saying interesting things. You have my attention logged in, but it's not always so much a conversation as it is spouting existential dread with a bit of a response sometimes.
It's a style.
Yeah, once again, nothing objectively wrong about that. It's just, okay, if I had to gripe, I'd say I want more back and forth conversation and dump on somebody and get their response.
Mm.
That was a lot of it, scene by scene. Okay, here's my problem. Okay, here's what you should do. Okay. I'm getting nitpicky now, just to say any critique, just so it's.
I don't know. I feel like that's a more realistic dialogue. Really,
depends who you're talking to.
I guess so. There's some people who like their small talk and
yeah,
lots of back and forth, and then there's people who just info dump and then get a response, and then that's about it. That's all you really need for a conversation.
And if you like that kind of conversation, you probably love Close-Up. I'm the monologuer, you're the...
Yeah, I'm the one-line quick response to answer your thing, and
yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah, that's how we converse on this show a lot. But, yeah, it's a style. What else? Anything... Yeah, I don't really have a lot more to say as far as I see in my notes or in my memory. I just really liked it. It's a unique series in terms of its scope and vibe, and just very well handled from a filmmaking and technical perspective. I got a solid amount of emotional resonance out of it watching it, and a lot of philosophy in my brain leaves me with stuff to think about afterwards. Great acting, great production, and it topped its first season, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing that it's not that's it. Like,
yeah,
they were really getting on a roll now,
and that's the worst part about it, is that this is it, and it's going out with a whimper. And because of Neil Gaiman, we're probably not going to get another Sandman adaptation in a very, very long time, if ever again. This property is just going to get buried now.
I think they canceled all his other shows too.
Yeah.
So that's a shame, but
yeah, Netflix has crushed this show right out the gate, and you're probably never going to see a better version of it, because you're probably not going to see another version of it. This property is just going to go by the wayside. And
well, then I'm glad we got a pretty good version then.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Sandman Season 2 is a must-see.
It's definitely better than the first season by a long shot.
If I recall, I think I said the first season was pretty darn good. I'm putting this one above. I'm saying it's must-see TV. And it builds on season 1 very nicely. I don't think it's just like, oh, well, season 1 was crap and start with season 2. It's like it all builds on each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Funny enough, I thought the same thing about the Loki show. where I liked the first season, but I'm like, yeah, okay. And then season 2 came out, and I saw the whole thing as a complete package. I'm like, I liked season 2 more, and I liked season 1 more in retrospect because of how season 2 paid everything off.
Yeah, I like when shows do that. When you can boost the earlier ones from a later season, like,
Yeah.
it shows well thought out writing. It's great.
I think Loki's not even a bad comparison because, well, besides the fact Loki as a character showed up in the Sandman, they were both 2-season shows that got series finales at the end of their second season, which built off the back of the first series runs and escalated in stakes as they went. They're not dissimilar and not unworth comparing. So, yeah, I think Sandman is very, very good. And where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at jchurchtpm.
And you can find me on Instagram at thoughtplanemedia. And check out thoughtplane.ca for everything else we do as well. You can donate $1 or $2 there if you're feeling generous and you like our work. And we hope to see you on the next Close Up with Ryan and Joe and Justin. Until next time.
Bonsoir.